Here.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Here.
Councilmember Boyd.
Present.
Councilmember O'Quinn.
Present.
Councilmember Smith.
Present.
Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Woods.
Present.
Councilmember Abbott.
She's here. She's here.
Council President Walker.
Here. All right. Thank you. All right. We left off on the presentation from the mayor's office. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr.
Max is back there. Max, we good with the microphone?
Mic check. We're about now. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Council, Mr. President, and the entire body of this council. Let me attempt to share some information, and I want to bring several of my department heads up, detailing this information and dive into nuance. Of course, there's a document we will pass out to you in a minute. As soon as I step away from this mic, I'll probably be the ones that pass it to you. A couple of important things. I think where we are right now as a city, as a state, and as a country, and as a world, we are in uncharted territories and unprecedented time. And I think a lot of the people in this community are dependent on us as a team to lead. With that, I think there are a couple of things people need to remember. One is that this city is fiscally sound. And so we are not in any form of jeopardy as it relates to our funding. But we need to prepare for the worst. Now, there are a couple of things that I stated earlier. This is not just a health crisis in our city. We have now moved to a possible economic crisis. I think that we are in a position, with 10 of us, to head off if we do some things. The things we have to do are going to require us not to wait on the state, and we can't wait on the federal government either. Because I stated earlier, some of our small businesses within the next 14 days are dependent on cash flow that will be extremely limited. In addition to that, I need to step back for a second. I want all of us to consider a few groups. The first group is not just the first group is the business owner. We've spent some time this morning talking about that business owner. There's another group out here, and that's the hourly employee who, if you don't have those customers that are dependent, that business owners are getting foot traffic for those customers, then the front end hourly worker is not needed. They're laid off all of a sudden a week from now or 30 days from now. The ability to pay their power bill, their gas bill, their water bill, other utilities, up to their rent looks a little differently. People have a right to be concerned. People have a right to be worried. So I and others on my team continue to be in contact with leadership at these different utilities. We've been in constant contact with Councilor Woods and his team over at the county about making sure we do everything we can while we're in this time to protect those who need it, and suggesting to people out here who may fall in hard times, please reach out to and or call that utility company if you need some form of help, and I am more than confident that they're willing to assist. In addition to that, there are other aspects of this community we have to be concerned about and are addressing. Our homelessness community, we have so many people that want to volunteer. The BHM Strong website, bhmstrong.com website, has a link for people who would like to volunteer and get involved in whatever aspect they would like to as it relates to individual or community support in wanting to help these various lanes we're all riding in. That gets us back to the conversation we had earlier. We presented many things before you. What I want to do now, I'll put a bow on it at the end. I want to bring Lester up, who will give you all not only high level but detail. But then I want to frame a lot of this around the conversation you had. Many of you all are concerned about the COVID-19 and what you're doing around our finances. So what we're presenting to you is detail of the breakdown of how the city guards against itself, how it guards and protects itself. In addition to that, the resources we should be spending right now to make sure our coffers, we can support our coffers as well as we can support our community. So with that, I'm going to bring Lester Smith up, and then we're going to rotate to the department heads in and out of his presentation to give you detail of why we're talking about these things. That's it.
I've got one copy, please, counsel.
One copy, please, Councilman. So you all already have these gaffers, but we'll give you one again. Not sure if you actually read it. I know you read yours, because you're reading. I appreciate you. That's what I'm talking about. You're encouraging colleagues, I know you. I believe in you.
Not sure if we're going to do it there. So you got a handout in front of you. Once again, I'm Lester Smith. I serve as the Finance Director for the City of Birmingham. You got two things in front of you. The first thing you have is a handout. I'll do my best to do a better job of actually walking you through the numbers that we discussed this morning and explain some of the information that I believe maybe there was some, I didn't do as good of a job as defining definitions for you all, okay? So if you look at that first page, the first thing that I need everybody to understand is there is a term in accounting, especially in governmental accounting, called the fund balance. Most simply, if you read that first sentence with me, fund balance is the difference between assets and liabilities in a governmental fund. In a corporation, it could be deemed equity. Okay? This is where I think some of the confusion is. If you flip over to page 2, what you'll notice there is I have multiple fund balances. The first column, if we look, is the general fund. That's what we were talking about this morning. There's a debt reserve fund, there's a grants fund, and there's a Birmingham fund. And then there's the total non-major fund. So if we flip to page 3, the next definition I want to look at is the actual general fund definition. That is the primary fund that we use here at the City of Birmingham. The funds used to record all inflows and outflows. That's what I present to you all at budget time. These are all inflows and outflows that are not associated with special purpose funds, i.e. the grants fund, the debt reserve fund, etc. So let's flip over to the next page. This is where I believe Councilor O'Quinn and I did a poor job this morning actually walking you through the surplus piece. So when we talk about the general fund, what we're talking about here is we're talking about the cash on hand in that fund. Okay? That cash is a result of the residuals of all cash inflows in excess of outflows, or the net of any outflows in excess of inflows. Okay? Currently, if you look, we have $98,232,000. This is directly from the CAFR. So the discussion this morning about had these numbers been audited? Yes, that number came exactly from the CAFR. So now I'm going to walk you through the process that we talked about this morning, because there were some questions about, hey, Lester, does this include the 7.9 that we've already discussed and reviewed? So stay with me. We're going to start with that 98,232,000. Flip over to that next page. If you go all the way to the right of this page, you'll see that $98,232,000. That is what we call our general fund cash account. Look at the number right below that. That's projects previously approved. $7,900,000. Let's look at what makes up that $7,900,000. Flip to the next page. These are previously approved projects that were approved on March 10th, 2020. They included an employee cost of living adjustment of $3,200,000, landfill number 2 project budget shortfall of $2.6 million, Carver Theater project budget shortage of $900,000, and the 6th Avenue Viaduct project budget shortage, which was $1,200,000. All those projects add up to $7,900,000. You with me there thus far? Flip over. So what we did is we started with that 98 million. We then, since those previously mentioned projects had already been approved, we reduced that dollar amount by the $7,900,000. Okay? Now what we're dealing with as it relates to that general fund cash is we're looking at $90,332,000. Now, as most of you know, and I'll have Chaz Mitchell give you the background because this occurred before my tenure here. There is a financial policy that exists that the city of Birmingham adopted. Chaz, I'll have you come up and speak.
I'll be brief. So the council, most of the people that were here, I think Council Hood was here and Ms. Abbott was here. Back in 2008, the council adopted a policy that we would keep 2 months reserved of our general fund in case of something that may happen. If you think about it, a lot of cities have this account just in case of extraordinary things that may happen. Some cities that don't have a good cash reserve fold and they have to let people off or reduce service or things of that nature. So this policy was put in place so we can have some type of revenue cash on hand in case something happens. So what is before you is the amount that is above that policy that is allowed for the city to appropriate this into any other measure that is fit by the mayor, basically. So that policy is on the next page. This is already been adopted by the city.
So this is common. Most business entities, governmental agencies, if they're blessed, have revenue set aside that they know that they can at least fund anywhere from some 2 to 6 months worth of monthly expenditures. So let's look and see how we calculated that. If we flip beyond the policy to the very next page. Yeah, so right after the policy, just flip over to the next page. You'll see that $90,332,000, that's where we left off. We're looking at our financial policy, and what I'm trying to determine here is I'm trying to determine how much is that 2-month reserve that we need to keep on hand. So what I do is I look at our 2020 budget that we passed. Because when we passed that budget, we said that we anticipated our expenses for the year to be $451 million. Okay? That number ties directly back to the budget bill. So you take your $451 million. We're going to divide it by 12 because I want to know what my monthly average expenditures are. Okay? Not getting too detailed here, just looking for an average. So when we do that, we say that our monthly average expenditures are $37,583. We then take that number and multiply it by 2. Once we multiply it by 2, we then understand that that's $75,166,667 is your calculated reserve balance for 60 days. Everybody understand that? Any questions there? Yes, ma'am.
My memory could be wrong, but my recollection, sorry. My recollection is that we required 20%, not 2 months. Am I inaccurate? That's my recollection.
What I've asked is that we asked for that, what
More
I,
than 2 months.
hold on, what I've asked for is just to get a copy of the resolution. If we can, if we
Okay,
can
well,
find.
I just keep on hearing this 2-month thing, and I don't recall ever passing 2 months. I recall 20%.
To clarify, it was 2 months or 20%, whichever was the highest. So at this point, the 2 months will be higher than the 20%.
It's in here.
Okay.
The language on page 8, everybody, is highlighted. It actually says, the general fund no less than 2 months of regular general fund operating revenues or regular generated funds operating expenditures.
You want our.
Yeah, but I was remembering what we actually passed, not what GFOA said, because,
The city council adopted their policy, and they, which may be.
and that's what I wasn't I was remembering 20%. So obviously there was another part of the sentence that I didn't remember.
So we're gonna just ask for a copy
But
of the
the
resolution.
20% is what I recall, but that was 2008, and this is 2020, so it's a little while ago. But I just needed to ask.
Yeah. And based on what numbers,
Okay, hold on, Council, what are we gonna do? Just trying to get the way you wanna flow with this. Do you wanna finish your presentation, or y'all wanna just kinda jump in? I was just trying to get how we wanna go with this. That's all, just trying to get the way, y'all want to finish, you want to go ahead and just ask as we go?
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I think if you will allow them to finish, we'll probably be able to answer some anticipated
Okay.
questions.
All right, Councilor, if you could just, I'll come to you first, as soon as,
I'm not gonna forget it.
no, okay, go ahead.
So at this point, what we're looking at is we're looking at what funds do we have after the 7.9 million. We calculated the 2-month reserve, which is coming in at 75 million. So when we do that, if you look, the net cash available for use, which is the funds that are in excess of the 2-month reserve, is $15,165,333. Okay? So when we started looking at the current situation that the city of Birmingham is faced with, both from the health perspective as well as the economic crisis for both the city of Birmingham as well as the small businesses, that's what we were focused on. If we flip over to the next page, we then looked and we said, okay, what are some of our current needs? This sheet here is just titled the COVID-19 funding needs. Many of these items we discussed this morning, we'll go into more detail as we proceed with these. So the first item here that we had was what I talked about was the health concern, was the first responder request. That first item, of course, was the PPE, which is the personal protective equipment and supplies. So in this situation, the fire department requested $50,000.
I think it's important that allow Chief Moon to speak to what that equipment provides and why this is necessary as it relates to what you all said earlier around COVID needs.
Good afternoon, Council. So, my name is Morris Moon, I serve as the fire chief for the fire rescue. As Leslie stated, we made a request for more PPE and equipment. But I'd like to start by telling you, my job as the fire chief is to make sure we keep the citizens and our public and our personnel safe. In order to continue to provide the level of service that our citizens deserve, we have to stay ahead of the curve regarding COVID-19. So far, we've taken steps to stay ahead. But as this pandemic grows, we'll need to do more to protect our citizens and our personnel. So here's some of the things we've done so far, just to keep you updated. So we've added 4 rescue units back in service to respond to these type of calls. We're sending some of our personnel to dispatch to help screen some of those calls. That's our first line of defense when it comes to making sure our personnel have accurate information before they get on the scene. If they don't have the accurate information, then that potentially leads them to exposure. So we're providing overtime personnel to help them out with screen calls. We purchased 4 decon fogging machines to assist with cleaning our apparatus and our facilities. We purchased an isolation chamber to protect our citizens and our personnel. We developed an incident action plan to help guide our steps throughout this process. And we'll use 1-week operational periods make sure our response is where it needs to be. On March 13th, we activated our SWIFT alert. If we have to move to SWIFT activation, then we'll have to change more of our operations by canceling off days and more personnel for overtime, canceling vacation. We temporarily closed our fitness center as a safety precaution. We developed and disseminated COVID-19 guidelines to our personnel and walked them through each step of COVID-19 response calls. We purchased COVID-19 personal protective equipment and placed it on all of our frontline apparatus. As we use this PPE, we have to also replace this PPE. None of those protective personal equipment, none of that is reusable here. So each time we use it, it has to be replaced. And we also have to keep in mind that we're fighting or competing with other municipalities for this gear. And there's a long turnaround time sometimes when it comes to getting that gear. So we have to order ahead to make sure we can stay stocked with the equipment that we need. So we're in the life-saving business. We don't have the luxury of waiting for that equipment when our citizens need us for these type of calls. We've also conducted face-to-face training with all our personnel. We developed and disseminated a Birmingham "Want You to Be Prepared, Not Afraid" brochure for our personnel and citizens. We created message boards that will be displayed in public areas to give citizens more information on how to protect themselves. There will be a need for more overtime personnel. So definitely. I don't know if you've been following some of the cases around the country, but if we have a situation where one of our staff, a crew, or an entire station gets infected by this virus, then that takes that crew out of service for a minimum of 14 days. So if we have a station that's shut down, now we start affecting our response times. There's been cases where 20, 30 firefighters at a time have been affected by the virus. So we have to stay ahead of that curve as well. We're already understaffed as it stands today. The call volume on these COVID-19 calls continues to increase day by day. That's outside of what our normal responses are. We make 187 calls every 24 hours. And these type of calls that come in each day one of these calls come in. Any call where there's flu-related symptoms, we have to use universal precautions by making sure our personnel wear this PPE. We have to put the same type of PPE on the resident or the citizen to make sure they're protected, to make sure we're protected. So in order to make sure we slow the curve of this disease or this virus, we have to make sure our personnel and our citizens are protected. We have to stay ahead of this by anticipating our needs for equipment, supplies, and overtime needs. As I stated, our call volume continues to increase day by day. The virus can double each day until we get this pandemic under control. So on Friday, we had one reported case in the state of Alabama. As of 4 o'clock today, there are 36. And if you look at the cities or the states around us, we have 146 right next door in Georgia. We have multiple cases in Florida. So I urge you all to pass this bill or pass this item so we can keep our citizens safe.
I have a question. How many are in Birmingham? Or can you give us that? I know how many have heard Jefferson County. Is there?
The numbers.
Don't want to. I don't know if that.
The state has been intentional about saying county, not city on purpose.
Okay. All right. So okay.
The state, the Department of Health, has been very intentional about saying county, not what city or cities within the county on purpose. Since the first case, they said Montgomery County, they didn't say the city of Montgomery. When the first case was brought here, they said Jefferson County, not what city. They're doing that on purpose. Cities are following their lead by not necessarily saying city, we're just saying within our area and county.
Thank you.
Okay. So is he fit?
Almost.
Okay.
Very, very quickly. I think, as you know, we started implementing the work from home policy today. And so when you have this type of transition, earlier, as you said, dealing with COVID-19, Patrick Smith, where's Mr. McClendon, to give you detail of what this breakdown means as it relates to information management systems for this emergency policy we have in it.
Good afternoon, Council. I'm Patrick McClendon. I serve as the Director of Information Management Services. Because of the increased number of people that are going to be moving to work off-site for telework, we haven't really had that in the past, but we're going to a large amount of that now. And because of increased strain on our public safety systems, that we're already seeing some of, but we expect there to be more of in the near future. And because of the need to employ professional services to roll out some of this equipment we're requesting, we have this kind of emergency budget here for our technical needs. We're looking at about $880,000 that we need immediately to deploy these things. That consists of computers, mostly laptops and tough books, ruggedized laptops for first responders at $335,000. Miscellaneous equipment that's needed to support installing and distributing these things at about $94,000. Networking equipment at $49,000. Professional services, $120,000. Servers, $226,000. And immediate overtime is about $56,000.
That's that 800,000.
Yeah, can we get a break, whatever the breakdown is? Okay.
That's the breakdown of the 800. We can do that further if we need to. We are in a situation where the supply chains are very tight right now. Everybody is ordering this equipment, all cities, all companies, and all, because everyone's moving to remote work. So we need to get these orders in very, very rapidly. We've spoken to our suppliers about the urgent need, but every day we delay the time out it takes for us to get that equipment expands, both because most of it is sourced at least partially from China or other foreign sources, and because the domestic demand for it is incredibly high.
Does that include?
Before Mr. Smith comes back up, Chief Smith is not here, but as you know, his situation is very similar to Chief Moon. And Walter Gibbons of Public Works is not able to be here, but Kevin Moore over Operations is here. Can give a little bit more nuance and detail around some public works as it relates to COVID-19.
Good evening, Kevin Moore, serving as the Chief Operations in the City of Birmingham. I wanted to give you an update. You see on this line, it was $450,000 allocated for public works. One of the things we're working with them on as well is getting PPE equipment, because a lot of the areas they're having to clean up, and they would have to clean up after people, even in a case where we may have a potential person that has symptoms, so we have to make sure that they're protected. But additionally, if you notice, they're walking through the building sanitizing from floor to floor. What many people do not know is that our public works also maintain other buildings other than the City Hall. And so we'll be expanding our coverage by bringing in a company to help us sanitize the entire building on a weekly basis. Not just City Hall, but municipal court, police administration building, and as well as the Birmingham City Jail. The reason why is because we have so many people who we don't know coming in and out of those facilities. So that's what that 450 is for.
I just want to bring Lester Smith back up to wrap up this presentation. The things at the bottom are pretty self-explanatory. We've talked about those before with you, either individually or collectively. In addition to that, you all already had a presentation on the small business emergency loan for Dr. Carpenter and Bob Dickerson this morning.
I want to touch on one item because I think there was some question as to how the projected surplus was calculated this morning. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. So if you look right below the IMS dollar amount of $880,000, the next line item is the small business emergency loan, which you all heard about this morning, of $1 million. The item right below that is called the 2020 estimated budget shortfall. That is guesstimated at $9.2 million. I'll explain to you how I calculated that. If you'll flip over to the next sheet, you'll see, as I've already mentioned, that our 2020 budget was predicated on $451 million of revenue. Are you there?
Okay.
Okay? $451 million worth of revenue. If you all recall, for those of you, I believe it was maybe at the last committee of the whole meeting, I did a presentation as it related to the prior year and where we ended the year. And then during that meeting, I also provided some information as to what makes up our revenue, correct? If you recall, I went over charts of this nature. This chart here, if you look at it, the blue area right here represents that 81% of our revenue last year came from what we refer to as business taxes. So what I did is I took the $451 million there and I multiplied it by that 81%, which says that based on estimates, we're going to have about $365 million this year in business taxes. The next thing I did, though, is that business taxes, if you all recall, are broken down into multiple components, okay? 31% was sales tax, 17% was use tax, 27% was occupational tax. Those are the three main categories that we were talking about this morning that we anticipate being impacted as a result of the current economic situation in Birmingham. I didn't even calculate business licenses because we're already through the business license season for the most part. So all I did was I looked at those three items. Sales tax comprised 31%, use tax 17%, occupational tax 27%. You add those three together, that's 75% of that 81%. So if you look, we're at $365 million. We multiply that by 75%, and I said that gives me about $273 million, okay, in revenue. I then took that dollar amount and I divided by 12 to get it per month. Looking at it on a monthly level, that's $22.8 million. Now this is the swag. I have no idea. I have no idea whether or not our revenues will drop over the next few months by 20%, by 15%, by 10%, 5%, or 40%. But I went with 20% based on information that I received from the tax and license administrator here at Birmingham that was here during the 2008 subprime mortgage crisis. And he said it looked like that we dropped about 20%. So I took that 20% times the $22.8 million and I said, best guesstimate then is I'm going to estimate that we may be down in revenue over the next few months, $4.5 million. Okay? At that point in time, I said, give me 60 days. Let's look at this from a 60-day standpoint. We didn't really have or don't really understand what things are going to look like over the next 60 days. So this information that was presented from the perspective that I'm not saying that the money that we're looking to set aside is automatically earmarked and we'll spend every dollar. What I'm looking to do is to set aside money that in a case of emergency, we can go ahead and continue to operate as a city. Set that money to the side so that we know that it's there for the next 60 days. During that 60-day period, it'll give us the opportunity to try to reforecast the existing budget. We do have to be aware of the fact that trying to fill this gap with reduction in expenses is going to be extremely difficult. As I pointed out this morning, 68% of our expenditures go to personnel services, wages plus fringes. We have another 4% that goes to debt, and we've got another 8% more in agencies. There's not a lot of what I would call expenditures that we can cut without having a direct impact to the operations of the city of Birmingham. So that's how that 9.1 million, I called it 9.2 this morning, rounded up. If we flip over to the next sheet, and I'll close on this sheet. So I've tried to provide you support documentation for each and every one of the numbers that we've covered thus far. The 9.2, the next section at the bottom is what is labeled council projects. These are items that I believe have already been presented to everyone. It was the Oxmoor parking expansion of $300,000, a flight simulator of $150,000, a traffic light on 5 Mile Road of $150,000, and then park improvements in District 4 of $300,000. Those total $900,000. Okay, if you look, it's right at that $15,165,000. What I need everybody to understand is that we can't sit down and calculate a lot of these costs that we've discussed, such as overtime, because we don't know what we're up against. Okay, it could be $2 million, it could be $3 million. This is the best guesstimate. Okay, so are there any questions at this time? So this concludes the presentation I have in an effort to do a better job of explaining everything that we discussed this morning. I'm more than willing to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. I think, okay, I understand. Here's how we're going to do, because I know Council Hoyt started first. We're going to start with Council Hoyt, work our way down. I want to also thank Council Hilliard, President Pro Tem Alexander, for they're still a part of our team here, but because of the us having some our distance, they're down front, but they're still all a part of our whole family here. So anyway, so if that's okay, Council Hilliard, President Pro Tem Alexander, if we could start, Council Hoyt will work our way and just loop around. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Smith, you mentioned earlier on about the cash investments being 98,232,000.
Yes, sir.
Is that based on current? Because this was June 30th, 2019.
Yes, sir. So what we did
So
is
what are the actions? That's what I'm asking. These numbers are old.
Aaron Saxton, I serve as Deputy Director of Finance. Those current numbers for the general fund right now are right about 112 million at this time. These figures that were presented were as of 6/30 of 19, the audited numbers.
I think it's important that when we give you those numbers, based on the question one of your colleagues asked earlier, have these numbers been verified? We're only giving you verified numbers, which is how you got 98, based on the fiscal year not only ending, but in your CAFR action, having an actual audit. Yes, those numbers have increased, but we're in the middle of a fiscal year, so we will include those numbers in the presentation to you, because those numbers will need to be audited.
And I'd like to add just one more thing. If you think about it, the numbers that Mr. Saxton just provided are being provided right after the business license season. So if you look, our revenues do not come in evenly allocated throughout the 12 months. So we always, even if I give you what that balance was at the end of October, you always have to know where you are in that revenue stream. But to answer your question, we're at 112.
And my other question has to do with the Birmingham fund. You said, yeah, Birmingham, Birmingham Strong.
No, are you asking about our Birmingham fund, or you asking about the Birmingham fund?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
Birmingham
separate.
fund. So where are we with that? Because I know we could not be at 90 million.
Yes, sir. So you got a couple of options here. You can either turn to page 33 in the CAFR, or we can go back over to, I believe, the second page of the handout, if that's easier for you all.
Can you turn to, Mr. President, can you and your colleagues turn to page 33 in the CAFR, please?
Okay.
So if you look at that page, remember we talked about just fund balances, right? So the way this reads, this is all the funds that are being presented here for the city of Birmingham. That first column was the $98,232,000, which is the general fund. If we move over 3 items from there, you'll see the Birmingham fund. That Birmingham at this point in time, June 30th, was at $91,413,000. With that, I'll ask Mr. Saxton to provide us where it is today.
The Birmingham Fund, I have a statement here from Regents, the custodian of the Birmingham Fund. As of February 29th, the total market value was $94,360,000. 17 days later, we're at $85,217,000. So we've had a market value decrease of about $9 million, mostly attributable to equity investments.
And I think what Council Hoyt was, can we, I guess, request just a chart on that information on
We
different
have
numbers?
we don't have any problem providing that information to this body.
Okay.
I would like to add for clarity's sake, Mr. Willis, that this presentation was before you. Nothing is being talked about today from this fund or being asked to withdraw from this fund. We have no problem providing that information. I would just like to ask Mr. President, for the sake of this presentation, what's before you, that we keep that separate.
Okay, the Birmingham Fund, I mean, because it's not a request to look at the Birmingham Fund, but since we're looking at all of the savings.
So it's finances.
We're, Council Hoyt, let me finish. We were inquiring about, that was an inquiry, so we've provided that information to us, and then I think that addresses some of the questions that were asked as far as reporting on overall different funding accounts or savings accounts that we have. And that was from earlier today, so we're good. We're good on that. Council Hoyt, you want to continue?
Yeah, well,
Yes, sir.
My other question, Mr. Mayor, you presented this morning with respect to the COLA, and you said last year that you had cut your staff down, and yet today, based on this COLA and this merit, there's about $200,000 or $300,000 increase, but you cut your staff down. So I'm just trying to kind of explain to me the dichotomy in those two.
Sure. Thank you, been here. Oh, Mr. President, thank your colleagues been here. We will have to understand how COLA works around all our departments, including yours. I imagine your COLA is more than that, and you hadn't increased your staff either. So, if you all are going through all the departments, I don't have anybody's COLA memorized, but I do know the COLA's based on.
Okay, let's stick to the item is, hold on, Council, I got it. Let me rephrase it just a little bit. Last year, I think the COLA was maybe according to what you said, probably 2.7, now it's 3.2 or 3.3.
That's correct.
So we're just trying to figure out what's.
Everybody's, all employees, that 1%. It's all employees. Not sure why one of your colleagues is only
Mr.
one.
President, Mr. Mayor, you was talking about, let's just focus on, you said the increase of $300,000 or $400,000 was based on, just trying to look at the numbers of that, because when you did the 1%, well, no, I think if we can get some clarity on that.
Clarity you're going to get, Mr. President, is if you want me to break down every department.
No, we don't need to break down. We're just talking about overall, just we're looking at a number 2.7 or 2.8 last year. Now it's 3.2 million in the 1%. Just need to understand nothing, just a quick response or quick answer. That's all we're looking for on how that happened. That's all.
So in this situation, as well as in a lot of other situations, when we're trying to quantify an exact cost, we can't get it down to every single element that is included in that multiplier. Because you're talking about, we have approximately, rough estimate, 3,900 employees. So what we do is, we'll do an estimate of what we anticipate that COLA to be. When we actually run the 1% through the system based on the employees that are actually employed at the time that the COLA is approved, that dollar amount could fluctuate. I don't know by how much it'll fluctuate, but this 3.2, if you ask me right now, can you show me by employee what that dollar amount is? No. We run off of just a rough estimate based on averages. Does that make sense?
Mr. President?
Okay. All
Now,
right.
now, that makes sense, the way you explained it, but if somebody could explain it, then I wouldn't have to ask the question.
Council Hoyt, Council Hoyt.
Wait, no,
Okay.
wait, I'm elected.
No, I understand.
I'm elected to ask the questions.
I want you to.
Because my folks don't ask me the questions. Now, if you can't be asked a question, and this is a democratic society, Mr. Mayor, then something is wrong with you.
All right, Council Hoyt. Council Hoyt. When I asked the question, Council Hoyt. Council Hoyt. Council Hoyt.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Come on, man. When I asked the question to rephrase it, I was trying to get that from Director Smith.
Because he don't know it.
Mr. Hoyt. We were trying to just get on a high level the difference. I think you've explained that. So, Council Hoyt, does that address the?
It does.
Okay, all right. I
The
just
fact that he answered,
okay.
but it wasn't answered before.
Okay, well, okay. All right. What else? I mean, because I want to make sure, because we started over there, I just want to make sure what else.
Well, and I'm looking at, because I look at things, I pay attention, I noticed he came in here, he said he reads, but I want you to know I'm reading too. So,
Council Hoyt, direct those comments to
I'm
me.
talking to you.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. I was just trying to make sure you were talking to me, so
is
just.
that okay, Mr. Miller?
Yeah, I was saying,
Council Williams, Council Williams, come on now, guys. Council Williams.
Let me say this.
Go ahead, Council.
And we'll be done.
Okay.
Mr. President, and I'll hold my conviction. Now, I'm looking at these projects here. I'm looking at least 4 boats, because your projects are here that amounts to $900,000. I'm just, this wasn't before us this morning, but it is now, so obviously, some folks have cut some deals on that. But anyway, that's okay.
No, no,
No,
Council
it's okay,
Hoyt,
it's
no,
okay.
wait.
It's okay.
No. Those were always part of a conversation. Those were part,
They were
they were
not
submitted,
included in
they
the
were
information
submitted,
form.
Council Hoyt, they were submitted last week, and there was a delay put on so we could have more conversations today. We then, from this morning, that those were part of the submittal this morning, that came this morning as part of the request.
Okay, I'm
Even though,
I'm
hold
gonna
on.
accept that.
No,
I'm gonna accept that.
yeah, okay. And even though people have projects, because they're city-based, everyone was willing to say for the best interest of the city to let's to have the larger conversation that we're having now. And that's where we are at this point. So that's not accurate. So let's what other questions, because we want to flush this out. Mr. Smith, Mr. Mayor, we appreciate the information, the presentation. So now we're asking, we're in the ask questions. So Council Hoyt, yes, sir. Go back. Yes, sir. Take your time.
When do we as a city plan to hire an advisor, a financial advisor? I think it's early. I think it's not prudent that we operate as a city and not have a financial advisor. To me, that's poor leadership. And we should be, even a small city like Homewood got a financial advisor. advisor in some other places around here. And here we are, the largest city, and we have no advisor. So, y'all go ahead and make them decisions.
So, you finished
I'm
for
done.
this round?
I'm done.
Okay, all right, okay. Councilor Smith?
Did you want to answer it? No. Okay, well, I would like to.
And here's what we're gonna do, here's what we're gonna do. Okay. No, I'm gonna recognize you, but I wanna let you know, we make the note, we'll work through that to get Councilor Hoyt that information, okay? So I just wanna let you know before I recognize you, I just wanna make sure we're taking notes on that one, about the financial advisor. Councilor Smith,
I was
please
just
forgive
gonna
me.
ask.
Okay, please forgive me.
To pass a resolution requesting the mayor to hire a financial advisor in the next 30 to 45 days,
Okay.
if possible, you know.
Okay.
Whose discretion is that?
It was just a request. It was a request. Not getting into the administrator. It was just a request.
I'm not-
All right, here we are.
I can't ask a request.
Council Smith, hold on. Council Smith, hold on. Mr. Mayor, Council Smith, hold on 1 second. Let me just.
All right, tell you.
Council Hoyt, just take a deep
Okay,
breath.
sorry. Turn
Council.
my mic off.
Yes, sir. All right. Council Smith, we'll work on a list to communicate. We're keeping a list of things that we need to request to the mayor's office and to the mayor. So we will coordinate and work on that, okay? On that request there, to the mayor.
Okay,
Okay.
are we gonna ask about the Birmingham Strong Fund?
Well,
Or
go
is that
ahead,
a
you,
different
no,
conversation?
that's all, but recognizing you for as much time you need to ask Birmingham Strong, whatever, because that's part of the conversation about the $1 million. So yes, ma'am.
I guess, would that be for Dr. Carpenter or for the mayor?
No, we will ask the mayor, what's your,
Well, really, I just want to propose that we just include the nonprofits as well, because I think they're gonna take a big hit with that. I just know that has been information we haven't heard, I'm just asking about that, and that we include to make sure 50%, some type percent for like Black minority-owned businesses as well, because we have to face reality that 70% of our city is Black. And so I just want to include that just to make sure that we cover all of our bases. It's not a criticism, just like a proposal. I think it's a great idea. Thank you, Mr. Smith, for explaining that. I think I realized what you were saying after council meeting. I was able to have time to really deliberate on it. Thank you, Mayor. I do think there's something, communication between both sides we need to work on. That's something we can talk about later, but I just really want to know about the Birmingham Strong Fund whenever you come up.
okay. I think the mayor is going to speak to that.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir. Mr.
two
Mayor.
things. I'm gonna respond to Councilor Smith's question, and I appreciate her question. I'm gonna allow Dr. Carpenter to go into some detail. I'm gonna ask you, as per how I know in this meeting, to please have respect, or not for you, but for your colleagues, to show respect for both sides. What's being displayed makes it really hard to continue to present to this body.
I understand.
So I will request that of you.
Okay, and I'm also gonna make it's gonna be a two-way street, because hold on, we just wanna make sure it's two-way. We're good. Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. We're good.
Ms. Smith, we would love to do that. Second part of what you said, but Alabama law does not allow set asides for, based on race or gender in the state of Alabama. I think three of your colleagues, including Councilor Hoyt, as it relates to the BHM Strong Fund campaign, along with Council President and along with Councilor Hilliard, sat in a meeting yesterday in person, not only with Dr. Carpenter, but with Bob Dickerson, who presented to you this morning, and gave overwhelming, ample detail about this fund we want to create, the legal process, how it works, what we can, what we can't do. They expressed directly, just like you did, that this is what they would like to see in it, and we explained how that works and what can and can't work.
No. Okay, let me just, are you okay right now? Okay, what's your point? And you don't have to point information, let's just.
Okay, well, first of all, I was not a part of the whole conversation. Secondly, we didn't get to discuss other than the fact that we wanted black businesses to be included in this Birmingham Strong, whatever this initiative we're going to come up with. And I can tell you that my vote will reflect whether or not we're inclusive of all of our citizens. And, you know, the law doesn't minimize how much we can participate, have black participation in it. As a matter of fact, we have a policy for the city of Birmingham, policy that I wrote, that we passed unanimously, that speaks to huge businesses, the underutilized business enterprise, to the maximum extent possible. It speaks to that. So it's already in place. And I really take offense that, you know, the mayor has said we can't do certain things. Well, he does it all the time. Just look at the contracts that come through here. It's not 30%. Thank you, but you had a good question. He should ask you straight.
Council Hoyt.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
We're gonna work on this. Do you finish, Council Smith, right now in this round?
Yeah.
Okay, Council Abbott. We're just gonna go all the way around and come back down, so.
Mine's pretty simple. I just wanted to see if we could get in writing the breakdown of what constitutes the request from fire, police, public works, and INS. So I'm sure y'all have it, and we just haven't got it in writing. So we can have that.
Okay.
And then the other thing is, per $1 million, if we give each business 25,000, we could help 40 businesses per million. Right? Is my math right? Okay, so that's if we gave each one of them the full 25,000. I'm assuming this committee, and I just want somebody to just confirm this, that the committee that will be deciding on the loans will be looking at the viability of the business. So if you were getting ready to fold up like any minute, they wouldn't be giving a loan to you that would never be paid back, that we will be supporting businesses that are viable and have a goodly chance of continuing if we give them a leg up. And I'm just assuming that's the way it's going to work.
That's exactly how it works, but I think everybody needs to keep in mind what this fund is for. It's for those small businesses that are affected by COVID-19. So a business that was already going to fold, not necessarily based on what COVID-19, and it's not related to COVID-19, things like that should be assessed. Also, know this, the calculation you did of how many businesses it could help, it's going to help more than that, and here's why. This fund allows us, others are watching what we're doing in the private sector. I've spoken to the mayor of Atlanta today, the mayor of Stockton, California, as well as Richmond, Virginia, Tacoma, Washington, Columbia, South Carolina, and Jackson, Mississippi. All of us have been approached by various people in the corporate community, in the private sector, around how can we help. But they probably want to see cities have some teeth and some skin in the game. What you all will be proving today is showing our skin in the game, and we're more than comfortable that that money that you all approved today for this fund will minimum be matched 1-for-1, at a minimum.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
If you all can.
All right, thank you. So I think our recess was definitely worth it, at least for me. Director Smith, you provided the perspective that I needed to understand. And I want just to make it clear that you're saying we have, keeping the 2 months in reserve, we have approximately about $15 million cash on hand that we can use. But of that $15 million, we're going to keep 9.2 million of that on hand, anticipating a 20% shortfall. So that was the kind of perspective that I needed. I needed to know that we were planning for that shortfall and what that dollar amount was going to be. And now that I've got it on paper, I can see that. So my question is walk me through what happens if the shortfall is actually greater than the 20%.
God help us. I think that one thing that I do find comfort in is the fact that the way that it's set up is we have 60 days worth of reserves as it relates to the general fund. In addition to that, though, we do have the rainy day fund there also. If you look at the amount that's in that rainy day fund and you add those two items together, you're probably looking at somewhere between 4 to 5 months. That's a pretty good reserve. Now, that doesn't mean that we just sit on it. We have, being good stewards, we have to sit down and look at our current budget and see if we can find ways to do what we do more cost effectively. So, if it does get worse, then what we're trying to do is, right now it's hard to tell because the revenues that we're living off of for the month of March are those that were earned in February, and the economy was still going fairly well. I'll have a good understanding of how March turned out as we get into the middle of April.
Okay, so as a follow-up, the Birmingham Fund, how much of that is stable? So we've already, over the past 17 days, seen a significant decrease in the value of the Birmingham Fund. So within the Birmingham Fund, how much of that money is susceptible to decline in value?
Council, about 2/3 of the Birmingham Fund is invested in equities. The other third is in fixed income. But this is a actively managed account. So Regions is trading daily. And I think part of the rationale for not trying to use that fund right now is because we have unrealized losses in this fund now to the tune of about a little over $9 million. If we actually pull out of that fund now, then we will realize some of those losses and we will not participate when the market rebounds.
That's good, thank you.
Okay. Council Williams, we're just gonna go this way, go down, and we need to do another round. We'll start all over again with Council Horton, so.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. So, when it relates to the Birmingham Fund, I believe that somebody up here asked if we could get a list of assets and where we were. Did somebody, or did I make that up? Was that in my head? Someone asked?
For what now? What'd you
For the
say?
Birmingham Fund. Can we get that list of assets?
Oh,
No.
The council is provided with a Birmingham Fund report on a quarterly basis. I think it went out to you a week or two ago. Jeff McDaniel would have been sending it out to you. He would have sent you a link. It's a link on our open data portal. But it's provided 45 days after the end of a quarter. So the report that was provided was for the fourth quarter of 12/31/19. The next report will be sent to you in April. It'll be for quarter end in March.
Okay, I'll go back and look for it. I see my colleagues looking for it because that doesn't seem to be a consensus about it. But for the public works, we had $450,000 was needed. for a contract for cleaning. Is there a time period on that?
Gonna do 100. You wanna break down that 100, that 450,000?
So what our plan was to do City Hall once a week. We just got the true estimate from one of the companies, and we may have to scale back for us to be able to do the other facilities. The estimate for just one deep cleaning of this building alone is $46,000.
Okay, and so did we have a time period for
Well,
what that cleaning?
the goal is to do it once a week.
For what period of time?
Oh, I'm sorry, up until the end of May.
Okay.
Yes.
And then, Mr. McClendon said that with the $880,000, that it was for a mix of public safety and, other staff. I wanted to know how much of that is public safety and how much of that is city hall staff.
So to split out for all city staff, so there's city hall and there's also remote folks and everything. I think it's about $150 of the $335,000 for those laptops and ruggedized computers. $150,000 is for ruggedized laptops for public safety for first responders.
The top votes.
Yeah. Another brand, but yeah, essentially the same thing, yes, sir. And the remainder of that 335 was for regular laptops, but that's spread between the police, fire, and all the other departments that need to. These are for essential services departments only. We're not anticipating any of those that are included in this for what we deem as non-essential services.
So, Mr. Mayor, would that cover the shortage in our units and top votes? What?
No, we get started.
Okay. And then my last question is that we had, this morning, we had $1 billion in the resolution this morning for demolition. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, I just, before we move on the IMS stuff, I know in the I guess the 800 that was in there for IMS, is that a separate request of 800? You know, because I know we were working through the package last week, it was, I think, 800,000. Was that in place to address the non-essential employees, or was that you still the same amount of money, but you're just shifting what the scope of that money would be used for? Or I'm just trying to get, I know before you'd asked for, I think it was about 800,000 for IMS.
Yes, it's actually taking a hit because of priority and COVID-19.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it doesn't cover the same spread at all, doesn't cover the same issues and or items. And right now they have to take a back seat. If we don't find a way to give the support services we need to remote working, we're looking at an issue of being able to provide the services we need for all the departments in the city of Birmingham.
Okay. All right. I was just trying to get the clarity on what, same amount, just different priorities. Okay. Council Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, that actually was one of my questions, so appreciate that. One, Director Smith, and kind of reference to the shortfall. You've got this projection of $9 million for 60 days, and so we're probably looking more like 4 months. So would that go to 18 million, you think?
So based on the best estimate I have right now, I'd be looking at the 4.2 times the number of months. Now, as I already mentioned, we do need to sit down and look and see if there's any adjustments that we can make in the current operating budget.
Yeah, so I think that's where a lot of confusion came in earlier today, was general fund conversation versus general fund budget. And so I think we were looking at talking about that initial FY20 budget for $52 million, and kind of, I guess, deciding if we wanted to plan to run a deficit. And so we are projecting 18 million short of that 452 million. As we're kind of getting ready to basically take down the general fund to that threshold, that 2 months or threshold that we kind of got set, and having clarity on kind of what that plan is if we do come up short of revenue, and we've already kind of expended that cushion and we're at that threshold. What is the game plan for that? And then why would we try to? I do feel better here that $112 billion number that hasn't been, I guess, verified. It's come in since last June, but I guess that was my concern. If we're projecting $18 billion shortfall, we've got about 23 million in general fund cushion as of, well, I guess, if you back out that 7.9, you're at that 15 million number. But I guess my question is, what concern do we need to have around making sure we try to cover that shortfall and stay above that 2-month operating cost threshold?
I gotta see if I can answer that, because I think I've been around Lester for the last 4 hours. I think there's something to remember. None of us on our team have said this problem will last for 4 months. I think it's important because we've been at this literally right at 24 hours since the Jefferson County Health Department announced this strain on small businesses. It's literally been a little over 24 hours. What we're doing is based on losing revenues, not just for this 1 week, but anticipate max 8 weeks out. I think over these 8 weeks, Mr. Smith and his team will be allowed to assess what happens with the remaining 2 months in the fiscal year for May and June. Attempting to project that number now would be extremely premature, and we don't have an answer for that.
Right, but I mean, we're about to expend money, so this would be the
Yes, for the
conversation.
next 2 months. But what you have before you now is projected losses for 8 weeks. This is for 2 months. On page 13, what we shared with you, the 2020 projected budget shortfall is for 60 days.
Right, but
So-
the expenditure, basically our general fund cushion, for lack of better words, will be basically, we're looking at allocating all of those funds today.
Correct.
Right. And so that's my thing is, there's certain things in this request that I think, we can probably pass now. I think a lot of people, I don't want to speak for anybody, but, and there's some other things that probably need more conversation, but I think that piece of, do we want to right now today put ourselves at that threshold with any additional shortfall, taking us below that 2 months? Operational costs available in the general fund.
Yes, at the recommendation of the Director of Finance and his team, what we presented to you is the best case scenario of where we are with our finances. As I've stated, I think to many of you, Mr. Smith is pretty conservative, and what was presented to you has been the best in the numbers and detail as possible about what could possibly happen over the next 2 months. As I stated, this has been 24 hours. I think giving any numbers as it relates to the last 2 months of the fourth quarter is premature at this point, because we need to assess what's going to continue happening with COVID-19. What I can tell you is they will plan for worst case scenario. They will be able to look in all these spots, including where we are with the Birmingham Fund. But they were intentional. We didn't want to touch the Birmingham Fund on purpose. So we're in a position of financial strength right now to get this fully out of our general fund without going into our rainy day account as a some good financial setting for them.
Yeah, one other question too. Can you verify that basically the general fund is not invested basically in
No, sir.
So I guess that 112 makes me feel better with knowing that there is a level of additional cushion there.
Okay. Councilor Hilliard, President Pro Tem Alexander, and then we'll, after President Pro Tem Alexander, we'll start back and go another round.
Well, first, testing. Yes, first of all, thank you, Mr. President, and to my colleagues for actually taking the time to really ask the questions. And also, I want to say thank you to the mayor and his department for bringing us more details. I'm very pleased with the details that I'm hearing, and it really puts me at more of an ease to know exactly where we're headed and what we're going to look like. There's some things in this proposal that are no-brainers. We've got to have our fire and police have got to be protected. That's without a doubt. I mean, as we sit here, cases are happening all around us in our neighboring cities. So it's no doubt that I pray that it doesn't spread here, but I would be foolish to think that we're not going to have more cases. We are. And I want us to be protected in that manner. So I'm at this point willing to continue to let the questions be answered like they're going, but I think, that as soon as possible, there are some things that my colleagues and I, we should know that are no-brainers that we need to pass and make happen. Even with all of our projects included, we still are not at a great risk of anything. I feel more comfortable now than I did earlier. And so I would say to Mr. President, as soon as we can, let's continuously move it on. And my comfortability is where I wanted it to be. And I want to thank the mayor and thank the council for actually giving us the opportunity to really think this out. Those hours were very well needed, but I'm still, I still want to make sure, and I think, Mr. President, we'll talk about this, because that executive amendment of us adopting that other information we talked about earlier, I think that the mayor put theirs out, and we have to adopt it. Are we going to do that today?
We did that earlier today on the executive order. Yes,
so
we did that
case,
earlier.
Because at that point, the reason being is I'm thinking we have to make sure that all of us are protected, and we have to make, because we are the people who have to make the decision of the city, and there are going to be some critical decisions that we're going to have to come to that will keep us in a position to make decisions as this pandemic continues to grow. So I'm comfortable with what I've been hearing so far. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. President Pro Tem Alexander.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to ask for some clarity and just be sure that when we do vote, that I have all of the information ahead of me. First of all, I think one of the, let me start with this. On page 6 of the presentation from this afternoon, on page 6, we had items that were previously approved projects that we approved on March 10th that appeared today on the agenda. And I just want to be sure that item 63 was the employee cost of living adjustment. Item 90 was the Carver Theater project budget shortage. Item 88 was the 6th Avenue Viaduct. Does anyone know what the number was for the landfill? Or was that?
It was a 2.6, I believe. You mean the item number?
Item number. But it was on the, we pulled those off. They were on here for today.
It was 91. That item was passed, I think, on the consent agenda.
Okay.
So the landfill, yes, ma'am.
So we did approve those. Thank you. Another, the landfill. Yeah. So another comment that was that also in this packet that we have this afternoon, it appeared that some of the project items had not been previously presented. So let me see what page it was on. Yes, page, it's 11. And there are council projects that appear, there are 4 of those that appear on page 11. Is that enough? Right here? Yes. Okay, so I'd just like to ask you, Mrs. Smith, are these the same items that were presented to us this morning? So these are not new projects, these are the same projects?
So, yes, they were presented to you this morning. They were on the council agenda last week. I know in 2019, at some point, in individual conversations, very similar to the COLA conversation we have with our employees, if we came into some extra resources via surplus, was a project that's been outstanding that we would like to see closed before this fiscal year ended. That's how these projects came about. So this is not new. This is not some form of bartering. This is not some form of backroom deals or somebody, whatever those terms were made. These conversations started last year. These conversations materialized once the surplus was realized. We did share this in the committee meeting with councilors. We did present it last week for vote. And then it was presented again to you this morning. And now it's again presented to you.
Included in the package.
That's correct.
Thank you, so these are not new. The other thing I'd just like to say as a statement, I do want to thank you all for bringing this detailed information, more of a presentation to us, where you've answered some of the concerns, I think, that were expressed this morning. So I thank you, Mr. President, for allowing us to have the opportunity to go into recess and then allowing the mayor and department heads to provide us more detailed information. So I just thank you. And that's, I'm done, Mr. President. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. Councilor Hort, yeah, we're starting back and we're gonna roll back, start your way and come back again. We've got additional questions, if not, but go ahead.
Yeah.
Councilor Hort, take your time.
Mr. Smith, some of these are capital in nature, is that right?
Yes.
These proposals. So we taking this money from the capital, the unencumbered dollars that we have, I think we got 148 million in unencumbered dollars. Categorically, are we taking any of those?
No.
Why? I'm just,
Okay, I mean,
because these are capital in nature, and as long as they're categorically come under the same auspices in those categories, then doesn't like to me, rather than completing the Birmingham, I guess Birmingham Fund, whatever y'all call it, then it look like we could take a good portion of this money and apply it to the capital budget. Now, my other question is this. So, as economic development person, I owe you
come on, hey, let's go.
I'm just trying to.
Yeah, no, we're good.
So, I want to know, how are we going to take care of those agencies that also exist to assist us with economic development, like BCIA, like Urban League,
Urban Impact.
Urban Impact, and I really don't want to say this one, but what is it, Red Birmingham, because they don't need none of them, but anyway. So how are we gonna deal with those agencies, because they too will be affected by the shortfall, by this coronavirus. And so why have we not included them in our plan, is what I'm saying, because we depend on them as arms for the city to provide economic opportunities for our citizens. So just wanted to throw that out there and see if somebody can answer, please. Mr. President, I object.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, can you give us some clarity?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
As stated, what's before you is not coming out of the Birmingham Fund. It's coming out of general fund. The second thing is relates to capital projects. These are active capital projects where there's a funding shortage, where no money can come from capital. So in this general fund surplus, this is a funding gap that's been presented to you. I believe on page 6, the keyword being shortage. Second note is, What happened yesterday with the health department, declaring a limit, a limited capacity, how these small businesses run. None of you all have ever had an expectation from a nonprofit, whether it's Rep Birmingham or PCIA or any other organization that depends on sales tax, use tax, or occupational tax related to a small business that's affected by COVID-19. So, Mr. President, I'm not sure how to address what your colleague is referring to. What I can tell you is that the small business emergency fund is not applicable to those organizations because it's not in the same category.
Can we work on the language to define who we trying to help?
Okay, we're dealing with Council Order. Okay, so as relates to clarifying or tweaking the language in relates to the part of the program that's been discussed by Dr. Carpenter and the mayor, is that what you're asking about specifically?
Yes. So can we get the language that they plan on using so we can see how we can interject or amend
Okay.
language?
So here's where I think we are. On next Tuesday and I think next Wednesday, I think what will be before the council are the actual, I guess, funding agreements or the actual funding ordinances for the proposed $1.2 million. I think on Tuesday, there will be an item for $200,000, and then I think we will probably need to come back on Wednesday in a special meeting to vote on the $1 million just for advertising purposes. So I think between now and next Tuesday and Wednesday, Council Board, we can work through what.
Mr. President, I would just like to chime in and tell you there will be no agreement. There will be no agreement to change that language, sir. I think everybody knows. Like I'm talking to folk. We've been having conversations, y'all. So it's just plain language. Y'all know what this fund is for. We know the category type of businesses we're talking about. These organizations, some of them that's just named, when we present to you that CDBG funding, they'll be in a queue for our regular budget on a yearly basis. But these organizations that were named as hypotheticals or examples do not qualify for this fund. Under no circumstances, Mr. President, we will be changing that language.
Okay. Let's revisit. We'll come back, Mr. Mayor. We'll talk through that. Hold on. I mean, as far as the meeting of Tuesday and Wednesday, the makeup of the advisory board, let's talk through what that.
Is this 17 North, 20, is this 16?
Councilor Hoyt, we're working off the model. Let's respect. So here's where we are. Point's been well taken. There's an item that will come up on Tuesday, and also we'll have to call another meeting on Wednesday to get the funding components in place for the proposed small business program that the mayor, Dr. Carpenter, spoke about throughout the day. So I just want to give everybody,
Point of clarity.
Okay.
So we're not voting on it today.
We're going to vote on it to move, but then we've got, just like it's got to come back as an ordinance on Tuesday. So we're going to vote to put the money in place, but I'm just letting you know because it has to go through advertising and all. We're going to come back. You'll see it on the agenda on Tuesday, and then we'll have to call a special meeting on Wednesday as well. So we're going to vote. When we vote, if y'all choose to vote, we will vote to start to approve it and then come back so it can be properly, within a category within the ordinance and stuff. Yeah.
Can we vote as soon as possible?
You mean now?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if all I'm doing is asking who else has.
Suspicious. They got a fever or something. So
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is let me just recognize and see who else has questions, Councilor Williams.
Just one last statement.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, Councilor White.
Well, last I checked, we are the legislative body. We write legislation. Now, no part of our responsibility is to make that process. And anything that comes to this dais can be changed with the understanding that 5 folk agree. We can change the language to include whether we want to include, or, or again, it doesn't have to be. We don't have to accept what has been presented with us now. I've not seen a council that I've sat with in the last 13, 14 and a half years that has negated their ability to make those kind of changes. Why would you do that? They don't do that in the legislature in the state of Alabama, and then we're gonna get here and let one person tell us what we can't do.
Council Hoyt, I would just simply say that the matters will be back before us on Tuesday and next Wednesday. In between now and next week, we're going to have, because I think even on the advisory committee, what's the makeup needs to be. So there are things that we're going to need to tweak a little bit as it relates to some of the components. Also, what's the plan in order to make sure that all the small businesses are aware of the opportunities to participate. I know they've got a website set up, but we can work through that over the next week to just make sure, the information is provided to small businesses throughout the city of Birmingham. And so there's some other things that we can discuss and look at tweaking. Okay, so is that amenable to Council Hoyt and to Mr. Mayor? No, you can stay. We'll work through it. I just want to make sure we're good. Sir? I'm asking. I'm just trying to make sure we got a good understanding. It's just a nod. We're not gonna go back tonight. Council Hoyt.
Well, I'm done, sir.
We're good on that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor.
We are amenable with the exception of changing language, and here's why. REV as an organization, BCIA as an organization, any of these other organizations he named, its function is not to produce revenue. So, this fund is created for revenue producing businesses. So, if that is the case, I 100% support you, Mr. President.
Okay. All right. Council Hoyt, we're good?
Yeah, I'm not in disagreement with that. But to tell this council that you can't change the language, I am in disagreement with that.
Okay. All right.
And
You're disagreeing.
we all need to be outraged by that.
Okay, but I think we're at a good place now.
I think it takes 10 to
Yes,
run the
sir.
city.
Yes, sir. And hold up, Councilman. So where we are now, we're going to work through those issues. I'm going to ask. We're going to work through those issues. Okay. Between now and next Tuesday and Wednesday. So we're good with that. So we're going to continue the questions, and we'll come on back to you, Councilor Elizabeth. Councilor Smithman, you have some questions, comments, and we'll work our way through.
I'm just ready to vote.
Okay, I'm just.
Motions to approve.
No. I'm just trying to make sure. Does anybody have any other questions? Because I don't have Councilor Abbott. I just want to.
Well, really just the items, the COLA, Carver Theater, and 6th Avenue drainage. I just want to see if we can vote on those.
I think we have everything.
Okay, hold on, everybody. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. We're all gonna have a chance to. Okay. So, finish. Go ahead and finish.
No, I'm ready to vote.
Okay. All right. Councilor Abbott.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I appreciate the additional information. Last night I talked to Josh Carpenter about 11:30 and just heard about the 1 million. And there was a lot more given to us this morning that was hard to absorb all at one time. So I appreciate the extra time, and I appreciate the extra information, and I'm looking forward to more information. But this is good. I feel comfortable. The only thing I really still fuzzy on as much as I love the idea of the 1% COLA, once you give it, you have to do it forever. And so the rest of these projects are like a one-time deal and they're done until the buildings fall apart again. But the COLA, once you give it to somebody, you have to put it in the budget forever and ever more. But I imagine most employees would rather gamble and see what happens with this mess we're in right now than they would to not get the money and then, so I'm good now, Mr. President. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Repeatedly, over and over.
I need to vote on that.
Okay, here's what we're gonna do. When we finish going through Dr. Quinn, we're gonna recognize everybody. If you don't wanna speak, fine. Just wanna give everybody an opportunity. So, Dr. Quinn.
Yeah, I'm also ready to vote, but I did want to point out that, the Birmingham Fund is there for these situations, for emergency. However, the policy is that we can only disperse 5% of the 5-year average market value. So if it's roughly $100 million, that backup is only $5 million. I just want everybody to understand our position, that we don't have $100 million in reserve that we can tap into the whole thing. The policy is that we can only use 5% of that.
Okay. You're good, Councilor Williams?
Yeah.
Okay, Councilor Woods? You had some, go ahead and take your time.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think around the Birmingham Strong Fund, there was just a lot of questions that need to be answered. I'm good, we'll go ahead and moving that forward and working this week to try to get something we can agree to by next week under the circumstances, but I really want to move the end debate and go ahead and.
Okay, well, just hold that for a second, because I just want to give everyone, we've given everybody an opportunity. No, don't.
Do I have a second?
Councilor Woods, okay. I just want to give everybody, since we're making our rounds, Councilor Hilliard, President Pro Tem Alexander, just to kind of wrap up.
Well, first of all, I want to just reiterate what I said last time. I appreciate the information on both sides. I'm very much more educated than I was early on, and Mr. President, I'm ready to vote on all of this.
Okay. All right, President Pro Tem
Mr.
Alexander.
President, I call for the vote, please.
Okay, all right, we're gonna do that. There's been a request to separate them, and so, Mr. Clerk, how do we want to do 63, call up item 63 first, and then work through those items we delayed, and then we go into, I guess, the this other document. Is this? Let's make sure we're voting on the document here. I think this one's for 15,165,000. Do you have that one?
I have it. What do you want to make?
Okay, we're gonna make this an addendum, but I just want to figure out. Just want to make sure we're all good. So we want to vote on item 63. We're going to separate them and vote individually. Item 63, I think, is 88, and then we're going to vote them all separately.
90.
Is that what everybody's okay with?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So do we need to make a motion to? Well, he will. I was just trying to make sure.
Oh, we just need to remove the item from the table, please.
Motion to remove the items from the table.
Second.
All in favor, let me know by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, so basically, back before you, I just need to,
Okay, we're taking
get
minutes.
63.
Okay, all right. You want to?
And you're not on the computer, so I just called.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Put it in a second.
No point.
Okay.
I think it was all of us.
Let's get it over with.
Councilor Alexander, Pro Tem Alexander,
Yes.
Councilor Hidden,
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt,
Indubitably, yes.
Councilmember O'Quinn,
Yes.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Williams,
Yes.
Councilmember Woods,
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott,
Aye.
President Parker.
Yes.
All right, that's 63.
All right, that item passes. Next item.
So we'll go to 88.
Yes, sir.
All right, motion, well, I already have the motion on the same, should be same people, let's see here. Williams and, credit of Williams. All right, here we go.
We don't have,
Sorry.
we don't have our, we don't have.
No,
Oh, okay.
I'll call it again.
Oh, okay, all right.
It will take us too long to get all of that, though. Councilman, Pro Tem Alexander.
Aye.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Aye.
Councilmember Quinn.
Aye.
Councilmember, Smith.
Finally, aye.
Council, I'm sorry. I should have put you in the wait part. I got it. Hold on a second. And Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott.
Aye.
President Parker.
Yes.
All right.
All right,
You
that
didn't
item.
ask me, but I'm gonna go ahead.
Councilmember Hoyt. My bad.
Please don't forget Councilor Hoyt, y'all, please, please.
He's up there.
Okay, please don't. Okay, that item,
That's
all
all
right,
right.
that item passes. Next item.
9D. Oh, that should be the last one, right, for that.
Yes.
Same, Williams, so, Williams. And, all right. Councilman, Pro Tem Alexander.
Aye.
Councilman Hilliard.
Aye.
Councilmember Hoyt.
Yes.
Councilmember Quinn.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott.
Aye.
President Parker.
Yes. All right, that item passes. Let's call up the, this, I think, addendum item.
113.
Yeah.
All right, moving to 113. Make sure I got the right one here. An ordinance to amend the general fund budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020 by appropriating $9,200,000 to various departments for operating expense gap, $150,000 for education for flight simulator, $750,000 transfer to Fund 102 Capital Improvement Fund, and $5,065,333 non-departmental transfer to Fund 103 neighborhood allocations. In order to amend the capital fund budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, by appropriating $300,000 to Oxmoor Community Center parking lot expansion, $150,000 for traffic light installation, and $300,000 to park improvements District 4. In order to amend the neighborhood revitalization fund budget for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2020, by appropriating $1 million to small business loans. Birmingham Strong Fund, $4,065,333 to first responders. Funding sources fund balance, cash available for ongoing operations costs. The council finding this appropriation to constitute an extraordinary circumstance for an expenditure from the general fund to cover budgetary shortfalls resulting from the negative economic conditions related to coronavirus pandemic, and that the expenditure is clearly in the best interest of the city and its residents and would address any extraordinary circumstance that was not foreseen or anticipated at the time. Motion.
I move approval.
Second.
John, you gonna second?
All right, come on. All right, we got to vote. We got to vote. All right, that was Councilor Abbott, Councilor Smithman, ready to vote. Mr. Clerk.
Okay. Council Pro Tem Alexander.
Aye.
Councilmember Hilliard.
Aye.
Councilmember
I ain't
Hoyt.
hear you.
Councilmember Quinn.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Williams.
Aye.
Councilmember Woods.
Yes.
Councilmember Abbott.
Aye.
President Parker.
Yes, all right, that item passes. What else we got? Just the,
Got withdrawals of 105 through 110. Again, those zoning items, all of those should be withdrawn.
okay, so does that mean that, hold on. So does that mean that it's still slated for the 27th of March, or is it totally off?
Now, they got to reset the page, bring it back and forth, is that right?
So this will be,
We just vote on it?
The applicant requested that it be withdrawn, and they'll
okay, so they'll come back, okay, so it's no April,
We don't
okay.
have to do anything with it.
Okay, we just withdrew everything. All right, so Mr. Clerk, what else do we have?
For the agenda items, I think that's what it is.
Okay, all right. Hold on. Council Woods, you had something you needed?
Yeah, question, there is a public hearing next week, that is, like, a lot of people want to come to that, supposedly. I don't know if we can delay that, or.
Is that with the,
funeral home?
I,
And so, in our effort to, best manage social distancing and things like that,
Be up to the applicant.
I think it'll probably be up to the applicant, but can we, let's,
well, if we keep it on, we need to have a, protocol in place to maybe rotate people in or whatnot, but,
Call numbers.
yeah, here's what we could possibly do. Either ask if conference room A could, I guess that holds no more than so many people. And what I'm saying is, and then just let them come in maybe one or two at a time.
yeah, we just have a process for how to handle it.
Okay, we can work through. Okay, we'll work through that. Council Woods, and we'll work through that. All right.
Also, are we going to keep the night meeting at Crosswoods?
Well, we don't need to all gather.
Okay, so what we're gonna do is, because, do we need 7 days notice or 14?
For a regular meeting?
If we need to change it from, Crossplex back,
Need a
70, so between now and next Tuesday.
Why would we change?
Okay. Here's where we are. We have until Tuesday to work through that.
But you use the same measures you use here, and
Okay.
certain people come in. That's what
Okay.
we do.
It takes a lot of work to move this.
Okay, we're going, we'll keep it as planned. We'll talk through logistics between now and Tuesday. We have until, worst case, we got until Tuesday if we need to make some changes. Okay? So we have until Tuesday, right, Mr. Clerk?
Yeah, to amend it or do something.
Okay, all right, so right now, we're still slated to be at the Crossplex on March 31st at 5:30. So we'll evaluate it, but we'll be in consultation with Council Hoyt, with the mayor, and with health officials to make sure, okay? So right now, we're still slated to be March 31st at the Crossplex. So is there anything else? No, I'm gonna ask everybody to not do all the new business. I need a motion.
I'm about 30 neighborhood
So
enough.
move, I move to adjourn.
Okay, all right.
Jackson.
All right, thank you all. Everyone be safe.